Hi, we're Richard and Jackie from Early Retirement Wanderlust.
And in this video, we want to take you through our top 11 tips for keeping campervan costs under control when you're out in Europe.
If you've not seen any of our videos before, we're Richard and Jackie, and we both early retired at the age of 51. We retired without getting our pensions till we're 55, so we do have to live on quite a tight budget, but we want to fit in as much travel as we can before then.
We've had a campervan for over 5 years and we've travelled in it extensively for well over 600 nights now, and we did that while we were working and we want to continue doing that in our retirement. But we know that with no income we've got to keep the budget really on track.
We're already starting to make our plans for next year. We have got thoughts of a winter skiing trip for 4 or 5 weeks in January. We want to go out to northern Spain and tour around there for 4 or 5 weeks, and then back out to the Alps, hopefully, for 5 weeks in the summer. So we've got lots of travel planned.
But one of the compromises for that is if we want to be away for a long time, then we have to keep the budget on track. So when we're travelling now in early retirement, we consider ourselves to be travelling and not on holiday. So we don't have an endless bucket of cash that we can keep dipping into. So we want to take you through now the 11 things that we try to consider when we are on the road in order to keep our budget on track and be able to stretch it that little bit further.
Yeah, we've had 5 weeks this summer trialling it out when we were out in Spain, and we were pretty good. We did keep to quite a tight budget and still had a good time. So the first thing that we have to consider when we're booking our European trip is how to get across the channel. Obviously the two cheapest options are either the ferry or the tunnel. When we're doing our research, we always have a look which one would be cheaper, but we also look at which days would be cheaper. So for us, time isn't really an issue. We can travel whenever we want. So we tend to look for the cheapest day, the cheapest time, and the cheapest way of getting across the channel. And we can save hundreds of pounds doing that.
Now, if you've seen our previous videos this year from our trip to Spain, we made a conscious decision for the first time to take a longer ferry, the Portsmouth to Santander ferry, which obviously cost considerably more money than crossing the channel. However, we balanced it out with a cost benefit, and we felt that the time it saved in travel and my energy driving, and also the cost it saved in terms of petrol, wear on the van and tolls, was absolutely worth it. The next big consideration when travelling in Europe has to be the tolls and the cost of the tolls. People often get hung up on the price of them, and they can be exorbitantly expensive, but there is again another cost benefit decision to be made. They do cost money, but they also save an incredible amount of time travelling long distances around Europe.
Actually, one of our best trips that we've had is when we did try to avoid the tolls when we were coming back from the Alps skiing last year. We actually went up through the medieval Burgundy region and we found the most beautiful places. We were lucky. We had an extra 4 or 5 days before we needed to get back to the port because we were tired. There is a benefit to that as well. The next big consideration when trying to save while travelling is where you're going to stay. Campsites are obviously a little bit more comfortable, they offer more facilities, but there is definitely a cost there. So to balance that out, we do tend to use park-ups that we find through either Park for the Night or search for site apps, and there's a camping car app as well where there are paid airs that you can use, and they do save a lot of money for us.
We found the best way of balancing our budget is to try and use park-ups for a couple of nights and then balance that with a night of luxury or relative luxury in a campsite.
There have been some campsites where we probably would have been better off just using a park-up, to be fair.
When you're travelling in Europe, you have obviously got 3 places that you can stay in your campervan. You can use a campsite, you can use an air, or you can use park-ups. We've done a specific video that I'll put in the link somewhere up there that takes you through the pros and cons of each one of those. For some people, when travelling in their campervan, there is an irresistible urge to keep travelling and keep exploring, but there is a cost to that. And we've fallen into that trap before. And we're not saying it's right and we're not saying it's wrong, but it is something to be aware of. We found ourselves on one of our trips travelling the length and breadth of Europe, travelling all the way down to mid-Croatia. And we had an absolute blast that summer. But it cost a fortune. It cost in petrol, it cost in time, and it was really tiring. And then in sharp contrast,
Last summer, we decided that we were only going to go to the French Alps. In fact, to make sure that we didn't go any further, we only made the insurance green card cover the French Alps, and we had an amazing time. And we just had time to really explore the small little villages and go on hikes in different recommended places that we'd found in the Wild Guide. We had the most amazing holiday, and actually, we didn't put many miles on the van once we'd got to the French Alps. I think we only did about 400 miles in 3 weeks.
and one of the added benefits of staying in a particular area is that you can sometimes take advantage of special offers at campsites.
Yeah, one of my favourite holidays that we had was when we went to Chamonix. If you book into one of their campsites, you get a free train travel pass that you can use anywhere in the valley. So we used the campsite as a base, and for the whole week, we didn't move the van. We explored all of the Chamonix Valley right up to Switzerland, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
And it was just fab. We just kept hopping off and on the train, and it was just amazing. A huge bonus now that we've retired from teaching is that we can travel out of season, and that opens up the ACSI camping card app to us. The app gives you discount on thousands of different campsites across Europe, not many in England, unfortunately, and it also gives you an interactive map that you can work out where the different campsites are. Really easy. It is based around low season travel, so you can't use it in the summer holidays, sadly, but out of season it can halve the price of the campsite fees, which is just brilliant.
All I can say is, as an ex-teacher, this scheme absolutely blows my mind because it just saves so much money, and for £22 or €22, whatever the cost of the card is, you just have to get it. In our early retirement, we tried to keep to a strict budget when we're at home to do with our food shopping and our meal plans, and we replicated that in our recent trip to Europe at the start of the summer, and it worked really well, and it was a really easy way of keeping on top of the costs of travel.
So we do make sure that we have a list of what we want to buy when we go to the supermarket, and we have a list of maybe 6 or 7 different meals that we're going to make. It just helps focus our minds so that we know exactly what we need to buy, and we're not buying things, one, that we waste, that will go off in the hot countries that we've travelled, and 2, we just have really nice, healthy, balanced meals still on a budget.
One of the things that surprised us this year going into Europe was that traditionally we've always used the budget supermarkets like Aldi and Lidl, but what we found was that prices in France had skyrocketed across the board, and actually there wasn't that much difference between the budget supermarkets and the more traditional supermarkets.
No, we went to the Super U market this time, didn't we? Probably on one of the last trips that we went to the supermarket on, and discovered that their own brands were actually cheaper than a lot of the little things that we were buying. So we could have actually been saving money all that time. With us travelling so much now and going away for long periods of time, we don't eat out. We can't afford to eat out all of the time. So we do, as we said in the previous point, do a budget supermarket shop so that we can cook our own meals. But what we do is decide what would be the best way to treat ourselves. So we occasionally will go out for a nice bottle of wine after we've had our meals. So we're still enjoying the being out, being in the hubbub of all the busy centres, but we don't have the cost of actually eating out. We also, if we do eat out, probably eat out at lunchtime more so that it's a bit cheaper. You could have the afternoon menus and still sit and watch the world go by while you're having your lunch.
And enjoying the simple things. So we now see going out for a coffee as a treat, and when you see it as a treat, it's actually a really nice thing to do. Linked with not eating out as much, something that we try and keep a cap on is how much we spend on drinks on the road. So we always try and carry a water bottle with us, and wherever possible we always try and brew our own coffee in the van, of which we've done a video just a couple of weeks ago on that. But it's a really simple way to just save a little bit of money, and when you save a little bit of money quite regularly, then it all adds up.
For us, when we're on the road, it's really important that we can keep in contact with our family and friends, particularly our mums, because they're both on their own. We were previously with 3 as our phone contracts, and we found as soon as Brexit happened and we left the EU that on the first trip that we did to France after that, it cost us an absolute fortune because it was £2 a day for our data roaming. And that adds up when you're away for 3 or 4 weeks with 2 different phone contracts. So we've swapped to EE. The contract is £15 a month, and for an extra £15 a month, we can have unlimited roaming when abroad, particularly in America, which with 3 was going to cost us £5 a day. So that's quite a big saving just by swapping across to EE.
One of our mantras of our early retirement is less is more, and we take great pride in enjoying the simple things in life and probably the things that don't actually cost very much.
No, we get out in the mountains all the time, where hiking is free. We love going out on our bikes. We indulge a lot in our photography, and we'll go to places where we know we can just spend hours taking lots of nice photos.
It's fair to say Jackie has got a newfound love of wild swimming, as you will have seen from some of our past videos.
We love spending days at the seaside, on the beach. We'll take a picnic and our picnic blankets and just sit and read for hours. There is so much out there that you can do that you don't need to pay for.
And it's not that we are being particularly tight or anything like that, but it's just doing the things that we enjoy. So, for instance, we went to see the Guggenheim Museum, and we absolutely love architecture and the photography of architecture. To be honest, we probably didn't have any interest in what was inside the museum, so we didn't go in, and it didn't cost us anything, but we had a great day out anyway.
We did. We got loads of really beautiful photos of all the different sculptures that were outside the museum. Our last point, and probably one that saves us the most money, is the mantra that cash is king. We tend to try and have a weekly budget where when we were in Europe, we would have €150 a week, and we would have to try and fit all of our supermarket shopping in that. If we went out for a bottle of wine, if we went to a cafe, everything had to fit into our €150 for the week. If we had spent the cash, then we couldn't use our cards to buy anything else. That's what we decided. But it did make us think about what we were spending.
And it doesn't always work, because there are times where places won't accept cash, or if you are buying petrol, you have to pay by card. But if you've got that basic idea of keeping cash and using cash, it really does clear the mind a little bit.
It just makes you think about what you're spending, and that in itself helps you save.
We hope you found something of use and something that you can take away and apply to your own campervan adventures.
We used a lot of these ideas when we did our recent 5-week trip to Europe. We went to northern Spain and up through France, and it cost us £2,200 all in, including the long ferry to Santander, all our petrol, all our accommodations, all our food, everything. 5 weeks for £2,200. Does sound a lot, but it was amazing.
One of the biggest things we would say is that you've invested an awful lot of money in a camper van, and the worst thing you can do is just leave it on the driveway. If you've got a van, get out and use it, and find a way to make the budget work, because that's all we've done and that's all these tips are for. So what have we got coming up? We're going to try and do some videos to take you through our planning process for our 2 long ski trips this winter. We're also going to try and make sense of the Schengen rules, because we are going out for some extended trips and we need to make sure that we don't overstep the mark on how long we're allowed in Europe. And then hopefully we're going to be able to take you through our plans for the summer, where we're going to avoid the main summer season and go out before the main summer holidays and in September.
So that's it for now. See you later.
Bye.